Hello, good evening, and welcome to the University of Denver virtual open house session for biological sciences and pre-health advising. My name is Roderick Rose. I use he, him pronouns and serve as our Director of Diversity Enrollment and Community Partnerships. It is my pleasure to be able to introduce our faculty members. And first, I would love to give a couple of instructions. We do have a Q&A feature, and that will be the best place for you to place your questions about this session, and those questions will be answered there. In the chat, you may see links that will be used to draw your attention to other resources. Please feel free to use those links as well. But to jump right into our fantastic presenters, today I am joined by Lancy Lorenzen, Dr. Lancy Lorenzen, teacher, professor, and director of pre-professional allied health, and Dr. Joe Engelson, associate professor and chair. And now I will pass the mic to Joe to kick us off.
All right, well, welcome everyone. And as Roderick just said, my name is Joe Engelson. I'm the chair of the Department of Biological Sciences, and I'm joined by my colleague, Nancy Lorenzen, who's a professor in our department, but also in charge of all pre-health advising and education. What Nancy and I would like to do is use a few of our minutes to go through a couple slides to give you a bit of an overview of both the academic programs in the Department of Biological Sciences, and then Nancy will take over, giving you a little bit of background on pre-health matters, and then we'll certainly have some time to address questions, and we'll be addressing questions in the Q&A as well. So to jump ahead, I'll give you kind of a bit of overview of the department. We are a broad department of biological sciences, and we have several different majors you could consider should you come to DU, and they're listed here. Biological sciences, ecology, biodiversity, integrated sciences, molecular biology, and then physiology and health and disease. We can talk a little bit about the different majors. At this stage, quite honestly, it's not super critical if you apply, you're applying, but if you end up coming here, even on day one, it's very easy to move between these different majors. Where they start to differentiate is when we get into the second year and beyond. Biological sciences is the most popular, probably because it's the most flexible. Ecology and biodiversity and molecular biology are, as their names imply, just more specialized. You get into those specialty areas quicker. We have a new major in physiology and health and disease, which we're very excited about and is turning out to be quite popular. And it's kind of centered around use of understanding of physiology to treat chronic disease. And then you see listed, we also have a concentration in cognitive neuroscience. This is another very popular thing. This is run jointly between our department and the Department of Psychology. And there's a lot of students with overlapping interests in those areas. And then kind of moving ahead in terms of thinking about things at DU. Yeah, Nancy, I'm going to prod you to, yeah, I can advance. There we go. What I want to do is just kind of hit on what I think are some of the really salient points that if you would ask why should I pursue sciences at DU, here's some of the things that we think are really quite nice and set us apart. Class sizes are an important thing to think about. Our faculty have expertise in a wide range of areas, everywhere from ecology to biophysics, and you're being taught by people who are expert in these disciplines. The majority of our classes, particularly once you're out beyond the introductory classes, are actually small classes taught by people who are actively involved in academic research and in research in the lab in these areas. So as you see, we have quite a good number of our classes in that 10 to 20 range. We do have some big classes, and big's a relative term. Introductory biology, introductory chemistry at most any university is going to be big. At DU, that means maybe as much as 100 students. But even then, you're working with the faculty. The faculty are very accessible, and then there's TAs who work separately in the labs. So, in my opinion, the big classes still aren't that big compared to intro bio and intro chemistry at most universities. And really, I think one of the nice things about our curricula is taking advantage of our academic calendar, which is 3 10-week terms. And compared to the semester system, that allows you to really take a broad diversity of classes or a lot of classes within your specialty area, whichever kind of direction that you're going in. Yeah, so next slide, Nancy. Another critical aspect, I think, in addition to having classes, and I think very good classes, is there's a very good academic support structure. It comes in a variety of ways, and it's going to be important at different times in your career here that you take advantage of it. First off, when you're in a class, even one of our relatively big classes, your first point of contact, your first point if you need help, should always be the professor teaching the class. I mean, that's what we're here for, is not just to give the lecture, but to work with you, to help you navigate things, particularly if you're having a challenge. So we have very open office hours, and there are going to be GTA office hours, mostly related to the lab portions of classes. There are other academic support structures within Academic Commons, which is essentially the library here at DU. There's a math center and a science and engineering learning center. And this is staffed by people who can help you get, also with your introductory biology, chemistry, physics, math, any of those introductory classes. And it's critical that you take advantage of the different support structure. One thing about these 10-week terms is they go quickly. You want to make sure you don't fall behind. And I think we're set up in a way to help you and continue to guide you in that way. Yeah. So if you were to ask me, why should I come to DU to study biology or molecular biology or ecology or any of the science disciplines, not just in our department, but in the other science departments, I think one of the most interesting things that are frankly a bit unique about DU is the opportunity for undergraduate research. As I mentioned, we have a faculty who are very active in research. Most of our faculty are, depending on their discipline, either supported by research grants from the National Institutes of Health or from National Science Foundation. So the faculty are running research labs that will have graduate students and we publishing. What's really critical, and I think somewhat unique about DU, is the involvement of undergraduates. Any research university is going to have some opportunity for undergraduates. Here, the undergraduates really are integrated into the research teams. Our size is such that we can run competitive research programs and also incorporate undergraduates into these research programs. So I think it's a great opportunity for you as a student, should you come here, to immerse yourself. And it could be anything. We have research programs in field ecology and molecular biophysics. We have, people who are doing field work in the Caribbean, field work in Hawaii, and then of course field work in the Rocky Mountain region of Colorado. We have research labs looking at all types of biomedical issues. We have people doing work on developmental biology, immunology, virology, and these are really cutting edge areas with cutting edge techniques. And the undergraduate students get a chance to be a real participant in a team, not just kind of following a grad student around and doing dishes or something like that nature. They're really part of an integral part of the team. Many of our students will work in labs for several terms, opportunity to do thesis projects, and when everything aligns well, even end up on publication. And the university does support undergrad research quite well. There's a university-wide program that allows for competitive funding for undergraduates to get some of their own research money, to get summer stipends if they want to stay here and work over the summer. And our department actually has additional resources for summer stipend and summer fellowships if a student wants to stay here at DU and work in one of our research labs. So if you end up coming here, this is something I really strongly suggest you explore. It's really one of our strengths. Jumping ahead. The final thing I'm going to talk about before passing off to Nancy and pre-health matters is study abroad. So at this point, as you've been exploring DU, you've certainly heard about the strength of our study abroad programs. It's really fantastic, the number of different places that you can go should you come here. A question we often get in the science is can I do study abroad and be a biology major, a molecular biology major, and also maybe a pre-health, a pre-med, whatever it is that you might be doing? And the answer is an absolute yes. The percentage of our majors that go abroad is typically the same as the university as a whole, or sometimes even a little bit higher. So you absolutely can take advantage of the study abroad options if you come here and pursue your science degree and pursue your professional training, if that's part of your plan, such as pre-health training, and fit this in. It does cycle back. We want to make sure you have good advising and are on track for these things. And the study abroad programs can come in a lot of flavors. Sometimes people will do a study abroad that dovetails in with the major, that therefore taking courses abroad that fit in your major. And often students will go abroad just to experience the other culture and not worry so much about the major. But within the major, we have partnerships in Scotland where people with a pre-health bent often go. We have all kinds of cool places to go if you're more into the ecology aspect of things. And then one other thing that's a couple years old now is what DU refers to as Global Masters Scholars. This is a somewhat unique thing that not a lot of students take advantage of, but those that do, it's a pretty cool opportunity, a very unique opportunity. A Global Master Scholar is a partnership between University of Denver and both Lund University in Sweden and the University of Western Australia in Perth, Australia. And this is something that students pretty typically would be committing to near the end of the first year, have to be committed to by the end of the second year, but it allows a whole third year abroad covered by the Charrington program, immersed in a particular area of biology. So some of them are very ecology oriented, some are biomedical, biotechnology, and it's a very unique program. And it also has the opportunity for a fifth year master's. So bottom line, in terms of thinking about DU, thinking about majoring in biological sciences, pre-health, is you absolutely can do the study abroad at the same time. So in interest of time, I'm going to pass off to Nancy to begin to introduce you to some pre-health matters, and then we'll be able to address questions, and we'll monitor some of those in the chat as well, or excuse me, in the Q&A.
Fine, thank you. So I'd like to talk about two things. One is career mentoring in general, which also relates to pre-health, and then I'll talk more specifically about pre-health. One of the great things that we have is really strong alumni base here at DU. And so we have career mentoring, a number of different types of career mentoring events. And so we have been in the last few years, or maybe even, 5 years, been working with Mentor for a Moment. And so this Mentor for a Moment event is mostly DU alum, and also some DU community members who have worked with us for a while, and students will be able to interact with people in their chosen fields. And it's kind of like speed networking. So going around and talking to different alums, building your network so that when you move on to whatever career you're interested in or pursuing, that you have a good, strong connection between undergrad and going on to whatever chosen career you have. And so I think that is something that is awesome, and they're in different topics. So there are some that'll be health and healthcare related. There are some that are more technology related events and things like that. So you can meet people in a specific area of interest. The other thing that I'll talk a little bit about is pre-health education and advising. And so we have a number of different ways that students are supported even before coming to DU and throughout their time, and also after graduation. So we continue to support pre-health students or students in their health pathway after graduation. There's no time limit or anything. And education advising supports students from any major across campus, and we support all health related career paths. So dentistry, pharmacy, medicine, genetic counseling, any of those health related areas. And really, as I said, we support students through their entire time. So we have lots of events. We have lots of ways in which students can build their resumes and build their portfolios and help them through, each quarter, really build the academics they need, but almost more importantly, because that's a little bit more straightforward, is how to build those extracurriculars to really be able to be competitive in terms of acceptance to professional schools, in terms of truly understanding which area of health that they are interested in and gaining the experience that they need. We also spend a lot of time, and we're kind of in that mode right now, guiding students through the application process. So starting early, making sure, giving workshops and helping with personal statement writing, doing lots of mock interviews with students practicing for their interview process. So really making sure students have support from the very beginning, from their first quarter at DU all the way through until their acceptance into whatever school or in even whatever job that they are pursuing. And so, as I said, we have students, many students, most students are majors within the biological sciences who are pre-health, but we have students all across campus in business, in international studies. Really just depends on their personal interest. And you can major in anything. So it's not that there's one major that's necessarily better. Of course, there are majors that align really well with what's needed for many of these different schools. I see there's a question in the Q&A asking what major would be useful to apply to dental school. And as I said, you can major in anything. In terms of biology, of course, in our majors, we require chemistry, physics, and all the classes that are important in terms of prereqs and for dental school and many of the other schools. And so let's see. Any other questions? So I think.
Yeah, Nancy, why don't you and I can kind of look through the Q&A, and
Yep.
I'm looking at a few of them right now. A couple of them I'm paraphrasing, but have the
Yep.
Question of talking about acceptance rates for students into
Yep.
DU students into medical school and other professional programs. So.
Yeah, and I think that's something I'd like to give you a little bit of background first. Is one thing is schools do provide their numbers slightly different depending upon the school and their acceptances. So we are always have been above the national average in terms of our acceptance. We use our raw numbers, and so some schools will utilize their acceptance rate for students who have utilized pre-health advising or who pre-health advising would recommend. And so that might mean that there's some GPA or some MCAT, minimum that students need to go to be able to get advising. We advise everyone and will help. And that's why it's important from the very beginning, help you build your strongest academic portfolio, both in terms of coursework and in terms of extracurriculars as possible. For students that really work with us throughout, our acceptance rates to medical school is above 70%. So we do really help students, as I said, throughout with every aspect of their preparation and readiness and applications. And similarly, we have very strong acceptance rates for dental school, was one of the other questions, PA school, et cetera. And happy to, we have students that have gone to Harvard, Duke, Stanford, et cetera. So we do have students that go to medical schools all across the United States, even Hawaii. And so there's not a specific place most of our students go to.
I'm going to look at a couple other questions. a more general question. It has to do with fitting in a semester's worth of work into the 10 weeks. I think this is an important thing to think about. In terms of the biology courses, we're not necessarily trying to cram a 15-week semester into the 10 weeks. So in looking at our curricula, a lot of our upper level classes are very, very specialized classes taking advantage of this 10-week schedule and really gearing the curricula for that. And then that gives you as a student an opportunity to explore more topics. For courses that are a little more standard, things that I'll often refer to as the ologies that you'd expect any biology department to offer, like a immunology course, a neurobiology course, or something of that nature. Again, we're not necessarily trying to cram 15 weeks in there. We're going to focus on understanding, on learning, and picking on neuroscience as an example. We'll have an introductory neurobiology course, but it's geared towards 10 weeks of content. And then if this is something that you're really interested in, we have about another 5 or 6 different neuroscience courses that you can explore. So we aren't going to cram things into that short period of time just to have you memorize things, which would be kind of brutal. It wouldn't be a lot of fun, and it would be kind of maybe not such the best academic experience. We're going to tailor it such that you're learning concepts, and that this is something that you have interest in a particular area. We'll have more upper level classes that you can expand on. And so I think that's important. The flip side of that, though, 10 weeks goes quick, so you don't have time to goof off too much. You got to stay on top of things right from the beginning. I see another question about kind of related to research, which I talked a little bit about publishing papers. The question is, do you get to publish a paper or a few by the time you graduate? Well, certainly undergraduates working with one of our research teams, either in field ecology in the field or in one of the biomedical research labs, we have had plenty of undergraduates be authors on scientific publications. So it's an absolutely feasible thing. Starting to get into a few of them, now you're starting to talk about what PhD students do in this period of time. So other than getting super lucky, you're not likely to get few, but the opportunity to be an author on a real peer-reviewed scientific publication is there. It's not a given. It's going to take a lot of work, a little bit of luck. I mean, that's kind of the nature of it and stuff, but it is a real opportunity. And I honestly think maybe a higher likelihood of occurring than at a huge research university. So I think that's legit to say. Skimming through questions. You see any other ones, Nancy?
The chemistry minor, do you want to speak to that with a BS degree?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I mentioned really quickly in passing that we have several different majors: biology, molecular biology, ecology, physiology. All of those majors also have an option, or most of them have an option of either a BS or a BA. And my first comment is, don't panic about this at this stage. If you come here, a lot of students will switch during their first year, a BS versus BA, biology to molecular biology. It's very easy to do, particularly in the first year. But in general, the BS is going to require more supporting science and math. Most of our BS degrees require a chem minor. Some of them will require a different science minor. So, for example, physiology requires medical physics. But you are going to have to do, if you're doing a BS, one of those other minors. Any BS requires 2 minors. But we can navigate these things. And students will also work with advisors. And I think advisors are another important thing to think about. We have pre-health advising that Nancy and her colleagues run. You're going to have a faculty advisor helping you navigate all these things as well. So there's going to be, I think, lots of feedback on that. But to the chemistry question, if you're doing a BS, you're almost certainly going to do a minor. And if you're doing a BA, you're probably going to do at least a year of chemistry. I see another question about the concentration in cognitive neuroscience. And this is, again, I think something that really is a fairly unique program for DU to have a concentration like this in cognitive neuroscience at the undergraduate level. It's truly interdisciplinary between the sciences, the biology department, and the types of neuroscience research we do. So it'd be kind of more cellular neuroscience, molecular neuroscience, things of that nature, and our colleagues in the psychology department who are going to do more behavioral work. And there's several different ways a student can do the cognitive neuroscience concentration. They can major in one of the departments or the other and do a specialized minor in a complementary one. So, for example, if you majored in biology or molecular biology, you would do a specialized minor in psychology for the cognitive neuroscience. But really what it does is a coordinated curricula allowing students to take a pretty high level look at the topic, both having fundamentals of neuroscience from our perspective and behavioral science from the psychology perspective. And it's really quite I think very popular and with good reason. It's very unique. And I'm going to poach a little bit of Nancy's territory. I see a question saying, is biochemistry considered pre-health? So I'll paraphrase what Nancy already said. There is no such thing as a pre-med major anywhere, even if somebody says it. I mean, there is no major you have to do. You could be a biology major, a molecular biology major, a biochem major, a psychology major. What you need to do is at a minimum, take the required coursework. You need to do well in it. You need to get some clinical experience. In the Pre-Health Advising Center and Education Advising Center, which is run through our department by Nancy, is open to any DU student, regardless of their major, and even alums after the fact. So I'm not sure if that answers the question, but biochem was certainly a good pre-health major as well.
Yeah, and just to give people an idea of how many pre-health students there are at DU. So there's over 450 active students that have self-identified as pre-health. And so typically we have many alumni still that we advise. So and typically we have per year 50 or 60 students apply to medical school. We have students that apply to PA school, anesthesiology assistant, a number of different professions. And I think, as we already said, any major I would go with what you're passionate about as your major. One example of something that was aligned, that was created with thoughts of what would be a major that would align with physical therapy. For example, the physiology and health and disease aligns really well with students interested in pursuing physical therapy school, but also because it requires anatomy and physiology, one could use it or major in that if that is a major of interest to get your prereqs for nursing, for example, which was one of the questions, or for dentistry. But biological sciences is definitely the most common major at DU for pre-health students. It's a little more flexible. Oh, yeah. So there's a question about physical therapy. So physiology and health and disease aligns really well with physical therapy, but once again, you could be any major. And then clinical opportunities, there are many. I have a newsletter that comes out every Monday, the beginning of the week, that lists all the events happening at DU, health related, and then also in virtually or in the region. And it also has a list of research, volunteer, and clinical opportunities, and paid full-time, part-time opportunities. And there are, within 5 miles, there are 4 large hospitals. And then there are a number that are pretty close also. So, and they have different focus areas and are of different sizes. And so you can have really unique opportunities at each of the different hospitals. So there are lots of opportunities for you to get involved in internships and, as I said, volunteer, clinical research, etc.
And to give Nancy a bit of a plug, what really differentiates our pre-health advising and education, we call it pre-health advising and education because it's not just take these classes, here's your prereqs you need to do. It's really going the extra distance to try to educate students and help students connect with what types of clinical work they need to do. So, and that's a really big part. And then and the back end of it is also even helping students with the application process and interview prep. So it really is not just advising, it's helping your education process.
And some of the other questions are about double majoring, or minoring in a non-science. And so, yes, all those things are possible. We have students that double major in and out of the sciences, triple minor, quadruple minor. So there are lots of opportunities to really, build a strong foundation and really pursue things you're passionate about.
And the vast majority of students that double major from our department are the other majors outside of the sciences. So the question was specifically about art, but some of the most common ones to double major with are Spanish, psychology is kind of a natural fit, international studies. So yeah, it's definitely possible for sure. Question about honors program in our department. So the honors program at the university level is something that you can apply to while you're applying. For a student to get honors from our department, one part of it is they have to do a thesis, a research thesis. That's called distinction in the major. And that's something that we give lots of information on to first year students and second year students, trying to match you up with a research group to help you get going on that. But that's the biggest part about getting honors from biological sciences, is actually doing research and completing a thesis. I think we're caught up with questions in the Q&A. Anybody's got any other ones? Question about living and learning communities, and is one better for pre-health? No, I mean, that's definitely follow your passion there. They're good, and if one of them is really something you're interested in, go for it. So.
Thank you to Dr. Lorenzen and as well as Dr. Engelson for addressing all the questions and the presentation. And to all of our attendees, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us for our virtual open house session on biological sciences and pre-health advising. We do have links to your admission counselor page, and that is in the chat, so you can certainly connect with the admissions office for any questions in the future. These recordings will be available, so we will be emailing you a link to the recordings for all of our virtual open house sessions in February. We'd love to have you come to visit us in person in the near future. We certainly really appreciate you taking the time to be with us this evening. So to all, thank you for being with us. Thank you to our professors, and have a great evening, and go do you. Bye.